What's going on, fellow riders? So in this video I'm going to be showing you the first 1,000-mile service, but before we get into that, I got a little update. I have got secured my spot for the Texas Iron Rally down at the Twisted Sisters for this year, so that should be here, next month, actually in a few weeks. And then I have secured my my accommodations, or it's not necessarily a hotel, it's a cabin up in Sturgis. So I am going to Sturgis this year. I'm going with a group of guys. We're heading up the week before. They're going to be leaving as Sturgis starts, but I'm going to be sticking around by myself for the first few days of the first weekend and a few days after, something like that, for Sturgis. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, that's awesome. But anyways, so let's get into the video. The first 1,000-mile service. You know, the one they say it's more than just an oil change, you know, at the dealership when you buy your bike. They always tilt their head when they say it. I don't know why they do it. Anyways, so I got a list here of checklist of some things that I've going through the service manual for this particular bike, which is, if you don't know, is a 21 Road Glide Limited. So this is going to pertain to my bike specifically. If you got the same one, then yes. And it might pertain to your bike. Say if you got a Road Glide Special or Street Glide or the Ultra Limited. I'm sure it applies to you guys too for your 21s. And I'm sure older, not older years, I don't want to be mean, but 20s, 19s, I'm sure they're pretty much the same. Now, there is something that's different though. While I was looking up torque specs and specifications, some have changed. Like for big, like one in particular that I really noticed was the rear torque, the rear axle torque. For my because I had a 19 Road Glide Special, the rear axle torque was 95 to 105 foot-pounds for final torque. But now on this one, it's 135 to 145 foot-pounds final torque. Now, so I'm not going to be giving any specs, torque specs in this video, because you need to look that up yourself, because it pertains to your particular bike. So but it shouldn't be that hard to get. If not, I highly suggest getting the service manual. Okay, that's why you probably see them sitting over there. I was just looking them up, and yeah. So anyways, so the first thing you want to do is take your bike out for a spin, get it up to normal operating temperatures, and then bring it in. Now, for some of you guys with older bikes that had fluid transfer issues, the first thing I would do is take the primary cover off, check the level, the fluid level in that, and I believe your transmission levels. Make sure they're good. If they're not good, one's higher than the other, is over full, and the other one's low, vice versa, I'd probably take it into the dealership for possibly warranty issues for fluid transfer. If not, if you're good there, remove your oil filter. Be careful. It is going to run down the front of your engine case a little bit if you unless you use the special catch thing underneath the oil filter. Still a little bit will run down the engine case, not a whole lot. A little bit of brake clean will take care of that, most of that afterwards. Pull your drain plugs, all 3 of them, and then don't pull that one that needs a hex. All right, that one on I believe the right side of the bike that kind of points off like this on an angle in the corner of the pan. Don't take that off. When you pull your 3 plugs, you want to check them for metal. See how much metal. Now you're gonna have on some of them. You're gonna have a little bit, especially your clutch. Well, how it depends, but you want to check to see the metal. You're gonna have a little bit. This is a break-in, so things are mating and rubbing and seating and everything and mating. So you're gonna have a little bit on there. You're more concerned about large chunks or really big slivers, like the little fine fine stuff, that's fine, okay? But you're looking for large shavings or pieces or anything like that. So you want to go through that and make sure you ain't got none of that on your plugs. Then while those are draining, remove your engine and transmission dipsticks if you haven't done your trans already, and remove your primary cover if you haven't already. And then while they're draining, that'll help them drain a little faster because it'll allow air to get in. While those are draining, you're gonna want to go do some checks. First thing I would do, check your tire pressures, check your tread depths. Okay, make sure those are good. There's a sticker on the frame that'll tell you what your recommended PSI is for your tires. Check your brake fluid level. For your front and rear, there should be a sight glass on it. Check those. If you want to take it a step above that, you can get one of the moisture content sensor readers. It goes in the fluid and it'll tell you how much moisture is in your brake fluid. Next, you want to check your brake pads and your rotors. Those are easy checked with a little flashlight. You can get in there on both sides of the rotors, check your brake pad thicknesses, and just kind of feel your rotors with my hand. Make sure there ain't no heavy gouging or anything like that, grooves or anything like that. Check the torque for your front and rear brake calipers. For those that have, like me, your limiteds or your ultra limiteds, or if you got a liquid cooled engine, you want to check your coolant level. That is found in the right lower fairing. You pop the cover off, and then you can get to the reservoir in there and your radiator cap. To check your coolers or your radiators, your small radiators, you take the covers off those, make sure those are clean as well, and then check your fins and everything. Make sure there's no damage or bent over fins. If there is a special comb that you can get. If not, if there's only a little bit, you can take a small screwdriver or something, gently straighten those fins back out. You want to check your belt, your drive belt tension. There's a special gauge for this, for if you want to be real precise. You want to check your exhaust bolts and your heat shield, the clamps for your heat shield. Check all your hardware for your exhaust. Make sure nothing's coming loose. You want to check and lube your jiffy stand or your kickstand, however you want to call it. You want to make sure that's operating properly, swings in and out smoothly. Make sure that's got some, give that some lube. Check your air filter. Take that off. You want to clean the inside of your throttle body, because they do have those where the crankcase pressure relieves into there, and sometimes a little bit of oil will get in there. You want to clean that film out if you haven't already done the external breather kit like I have. You want to inspect your fuel lines. Make sure you're not leaking anywhere. Make sure nothing's rubbing or chafing anywhere. You want to check those. You want to check the torques of your front and rear axles. Make sure they're torqued down properly. Make sure your levers and your switch housing, your clamp bolts and your switch housing bolts are tight. They don't need to be super tight. If you have a windshield, you want to check to make sure those bolts are tight. Those aren't a super high torque value, so that shouldn't take a whole lot to make sure those are tight. You want to check your switches, your electricals. Make sure all your switches are working properly. Obviously, if you don't have oil in the bike yet, don't try to start the bike. But check all your switches. Make sure your horns, your lights work, your turn signals work, the bulbs are good. Make sure all those are good. And While you're under the seat checking the battery, you might want to check the wiring harnesses. Make sure nothing's rubbing or chafing through. Take your side covers off. Your side covers under the seat. Take them off. Check. Make sure none of the wires down there are chafing anything, or whatnot. So you want to check your brake lines. Your brake lines and your clutch lines. It's whether it doesn't matter if you have hydraulic or cable clutch. You want to check. You want to follow them, check them, make sure they're not chafing. Check where their connections are, the fittings. Make sure there's no leaking or they're not coming loose. If they're loose, they're going to be leaking. So you want to make sure. And another way to tell if you got a leak, if your fluid's low. So you want to check those as well. You want to check your throttle. Or your twist grip, your twist grip sensor, not necessarily the sensor, but your twist grip or your throttle. You want to full throttle, release, just let it go, and it needs to snap back. Full throttle, release, snap back. It needs to snap back. So if it snags or it's slow to come back to its normal resting position, then you probably got something going on, either something in the sensors causing it to drag, or there's something on the handlebar underneath the grip causing it to drag. You need to check that out if there's an issue. And the same thing, twist your throttle forward, like to disengage your cruise control. If you don't know about that, you can, instead of twisting it like you normally do for throttle, for more power, you want to twist it the opposite way. It only turns a little bit, and make sure that when you release that, it snaps back to its normal resting position. You want to check your battery connections at the terminals. Make sure they're not corroded. Make sure you're not getting any green pus or the crusties or anything like that. And you also want to make sure the bolts are tight. Again, those are not super tight, because you got to think it's just steel bolt going into a a lead nut. I believe it is lead nut, but either way, doesn't take a whole lot. Check your rear shocks. Make sure the bolts aren't tight. Make sure nothing's broke on it or anything, that they're not leaking. Clean your plugs. Then it's time to put them on. You want to change the O-rings. You need to replace the O-rings because they kind of get chewed up. And then if you want to take it a step further, get a little bit of thread sealant or Teflon tape, plumber's tape. Put a little bit of that on there, a little bit of thread sealer if you're using that. Then go ahead and put your plugs in. Clean up under the pan and underneath the primary. Get all that oil if there's any left on there. And then you want to fill your primary up, fill your engine up, and fill your transmission up full of fluids. You want to do that. Make sure everything's, again, go to your specifications and your dipsticks, go by them. Make sure you've got full. Now you want to, after you've filled up your fluids, you want to, what I usually do with my new filter is I'll fill it up about halfway, and then I'll kind of stir it around like this and allow that filter element to absorb some of that oil, and it'll usually absorb up most of it, if not all of it. You don't want to fill that filter up all the way, because you got to turn it horizontally and then it's going to leak out when you do that. But you want to kind of prime that filter. I like to prime it. So, and then take a little bit of new oil, run it on the filter gasket sealing ring, and then clean off the mating surface of where you're going to be putting the filter. Clean that off, then install your new filter. Now it's only got to be hand tight. Once it touches, I think it's about a half to 3/4 of a turn. Don't use your wrench to tighten it, because you're going to have hell trying to get that thing off. Then, now this isn't, once you're confident that your fluids are full, your filter's on, and you're ready to start the bike. It's not in the service manual, but what I like to do is, what you can do is turn your ignition switch on, flip your other switch on to the run position, and then before you hit the start button, go full throttle. Hold it full throttle, then press and hold the start button. What this will do is it'll crank your engine, but it won't fire it up. So I like doing this about 2 or 3 times for like 3 or 4 seconds at a time. Don't do it too much longer because you don't want to burn up your clutch or your starter. Let it sit for several seconds, full throttle, hit the start button, let it crank. What this does is it'll prime your oil, get oil in your filter, some more oil into your filter and stuff like that. Mostly that's what you're trying to do, is get some oil into your filter before running it. So once you've done that, then now it's time to start the bike. Don't let go of your throttle, just press and start your crank up your bike, start it up, watch your gauge, make sure the oil light turns off after a few seconds. If it doesn't, you want to stop, kill the bike, maybe prime it once or twice more, then try starting it. If it doesn't go off, then you might want to check your engine oil level, make sure that's still good, check for any leaks or anything like that. If it continues, then you might want to call the dealership and see what they got to say about it. But usually you shouldn't. So once that's all good and said and done, let it run for about 5 minutes. Okay, let it get up to temperature. Let it run for about 5 minutes. While the engine's running, I like to clean up everything, clean up my tools, put my tools away, throw stuff away, and then check for any leaks. Make sure that none of your oils are leaking. And then after about 5 minutes, kill the bike, check your not necessarily your primary, but check your engine and transmission fluid levels. Add what you need to them and make sure you're good. And then I say take it for a quick spin, you know, not too far, take it for a spin, come back, let it set for a little bit, and come back to check for any more leaks, possible leaks. These are the things that I found in the service manual that are that they suggest checking at your first 1,000-mile service. Some bikes you might have more, some might have less. Again, you have to check with your particular bike. That's why I always recommend getting the service manual. So that's why they say it's more than just an oil change, because it is. It is, not gonna lie. But if you feel confident and comfortable doing it yourself, you've got the proper tools and stuff to do it yourself, by all means do it, man. Save a couple bucks. Learn your bike. You know, learn your bike. See how it's supposed to work. See, check this out. Be able to learn how to check this out. It could help you down the road if you potentially start having issues. Anyways, so that's it. So if you like what you see, give me a big old thumbs up. Comment down below if you think I missed anything. Just be gentle, please. I'm learning as well. So, and then make sure you subscribe for those future videos coming up, those future rides coming up, and any other service videos that I might have. So, how-to videos. So, thanks for watching, and I appreciate all your guys' support, all you guys that have subscribed. I'm up to like 600 and something. Awesome. Can't wait to hit that 1,000. It's, from what I hear, that first 1,000 is probably the hardest to get to. So I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Oh, adios.